So, today we thought we would talk to each other and to you guys about miscarriage. Something so many people go through, and we had 4 miscarriages between us.
Yeah, I had 2. You had no. Yeah, we did. When we counted
It's
them
so
up,
dark, you joke about that.
But when we were counting them up, I was quite shocked by how many you had and we went through. I do hate that thing when men say we had the baby. That's the only reason I kind of made a joke of that.
So let's talk about the first one. Do you remember we were in Cornwall and we were so excited?
So much. It was our first sort of naughty weekend away, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we'd only known each other for about a week.
Oh, shut up. We'd been together, we hadn't been together long, and discovered I was pregnant, and we were both absolutely thrilled to bits. We were in Cornwall and it was so romantic, wasn't it?
St. Maudwin, I think.
And it's like you always say, from the second you know you're pregnant, you start making plans.
Yeah.
You see that whole life. Makes me cry, actually.
Oh, sweetheart. Oh.
That's right. So it doesn't really matter whether you've known for a day or a week or 4 weeks or 8 weeks or 12. Oh, how far along were you? It doesn't make any difference, because from that second you know, that second you see the blue line, you're planning. You can see their face, you can see their smile, you start worrying about how they're going to go to school and what holidays are going to be like, and will you ever sleep again? That all happens from day one, and that's why I am such an advocate for telling everyone from the second you're pregnant.
Oh, right.
Because I think if we'd kept it a secret for 3 months and then we told everybody, oh, well, we were pregnant, but now we're not, we've lost it, we wouldn't have got that support and that grief, because all our friends and family were grief-stricken for us. But
So why do people suggest, do you think, the 12-week thing? I mean,
it's a superstition that if you say it before, you could lose it. It's an old superstition, that's all it is.
And why 12 weeks?
Because 12 weeks, if you get to 12 weeks, you're usually all right. Miscarriage
Right.
usually happens before 12 weeks.
Right.
So,
I mean, of course, it was strange, just the very concept of you being pregnant that first time for me, because, of course, I had 2 children previously. And so for me, likewise, in a very different way, this was feeling like the beginning of a family
yeah.
I had failed to either hold on to or achieve or whatever beforehand. So you're right, we did invest the moment with a huge amount of...
Oh, God, it was huge. I mean, I've got a terrible memory. You've got a terrible memory from these things. I can't remember how far we were when we had the miscarriage. Maybe 6, 8 weeks. I don't know. I can't remember now. But I was devastated, and I immediately felt like panic-stricken, because I felt, oh my God, what if I'm... And the actual old-fashioned word came into my head, barren. What if I'm barren now and I can't have a baby? And then we were trying for a while afterwards, and I remember we were in a baby shop and we were buying a baby grow for somebody else, and you said really casually, with no meanness or cruelty or anything meant whatsoever, it was just a thought and it just came out of your mouth, and I had my back to you because I was looking at something, and you said,
Oh,
no, you didn't mean it, it wasn't nasty. You said, just imagine if you actually can't have children.
Oh my God, that was highly sensitive.
No, but you didn't mean
God.
it was just a
So
thought.
sorry.
No, it was just a thought that came out. And I remember I had my back to you and I just like feeling like I'd been stabbed with this absolute terror. And I just stood frozen. I was just like, gather yourself, gather yourself, gather yourself. And I just didn't want to show that it's like, yeah. And then I managed to get this.
I must have said it from a position of absolutely assuming we could, because you were.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't see you as that much older. I mean, how old were we I was 30 when we met.
I was 30. I was 38.
No, 36 or 37. You're 6-7 years older.
Well, no, because I had Maddie when I was 38.
No, you didn't.
I did.
38. Must have been 37. I must have been 37, I think.
No,
Yeah.
but no. Oh, I can see why you've misunderstood that. I I didn't think you were saying it because I was too old. I just thought you were just saying it. What if you can't have children?
Oh, I see. Oh, right. Just as a sort of generic, maybe you can't have kids. But
And
even
of
though you were
course-
pregnant at that point.
Oh, Mark, I'm talking about after the miscarriage.
Oh, sorry. I thought when we were walking around the shop, you said we were walking around a shop and.
Buying baby clothes for somebody else.
Oh, see,
That's what I
after the miscarriage.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a hideously insensitive thing for me to have said.
No, but it was quite a while after the miscarriage. You didn't really mean it. There was a little bit of fear in you. You were just kind of sharing
Oh, right.
something. Honestly, darling, I didn't think badly of you when you said it, and I never have since because you didn't mean it. But, of course,
God.
I had had a termination years before. And I think, all that guilt came up, and I was thinking, is this a punishment? And actually, with each subsequent miscarriage, I felt like it was a punishment.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it wasn't with you when I had the termination.
I mean, I do remember, although we had told people, I remember we hadn't told Izzy the first time. I don't think.
We had told Izzy.
Well, and so she knew that you miscarried.
Yeah. They knew each time we miscarried.
Wow.
So then we got pregnant with Maddie.
Amazing you did get pregnant given how much I was drinking and you were drinking.
Well, don't you see,
My
that's another thing that makes me
God.
feel guilty.
Really? Oh no.
Because I think
It would have
those
been
were
called Jack
early
Daniels.
days.
Yeah.
Could have been. Yeah. Anyway, there's so much guilt for every single thing we do.
But then obviously Maddie came.
Then Maddie came.
But and how much? I'm trying to remember when you were pregnant with Maddie. Yeah, there would have been a sort of shrill sound in the background as to whether we would miscarry again or.
Well, I did a lot of research on it, and Rachel, our homeopath, and just stuff I'd researched that so many people will have a miscarriage the first time they're pregnant. Lots of people don't even know.
Right.
So they have a miscarriage because apparently the womb is just practicing.
Yes.
And my mum's convinced she had a miscarriage before Dina as well. I think a lot of people you talk to will say that. So I managed to convince myself that was just a one-off and that will never happen again. Then, of course, we had our darling, darling Maddie.
Oh. What's making you sad there?
Just...
Do you want a hug?
No.
I can enter your shot. Oh, sweetie.
Well, she was just so precious, wasn't she? Born on Christmas Day. After such a terrible, terrible, terrible labour. Terrible. Survivor of torture.
Well, I mean, to the extent if we're talking about miscarriages specifically, I'll never forget the terror of when she came out and didn't make a noise for what seemed like ages in the corner of the room upstairs. And I remember at that point, something landed on me, which was not even close to panic. It was a sort of primal, what on earth do we do in the circumstances that she doesn't breathe?
Yeah, I thought she was dead.
And then suddenly that great big elasticated lipped mouth bellowed in a fashion that it bellowed for the next 6 years. And that moment was, I remember us both not breathing until we heard that moment. And you had just delivered in the most stressful to you circumstances. Oh,
Sorry, I'm
sweetie.
just trying to gather myself.
That's okay.
Because I did.
When
she landed on the floor, I was so shocked after so many days. And then she landed on the floor, and I thought, oh my God, she's dead. That's what I thought.
So did I.
I thought she's dead, and I thought I've had the miscarriage, and she's dead, and I'm just going to keep having dead babies. That's what I thought. Just after she was born, that's what I thought. I thought, I'm going to keep having dead babies.
Oh my God.
But anyway.
I was about to say let's move on to a more cheery part of the story, but we're moving to miscarriage number 2. This was meant to be the happy bit. Maddie arrived.
Well, she was.
Sorry,
so,
we are
then
scorpions.
We
and
are
we
very
do have
dark,
a dark
humour.
sense of humour. And so,
listen, anybody that goes through tough times knows that you laugh and you cry or you go mad. So Maddie, beautiful, amazing, gorgeous, dream child, although she did look a bit like an alien when she was first born. She knows that, we have to put into about that. Much loved, years since a baby had been in the family. It was just amazing times, wasn't it? But I was so traumatised after the birth, I said, I'll never have another baby again. That's it, I'm done. But then when she was 3, I was hit by a thunderbolt of like, absolutely, I've got to have another baby. Just like this yearning maternal
I remember
instinct.
you kept dragging me upstairs all the time. It was a remarkable month.
Time this married. Anyway, so got pregnant again.
I seem to manage to pull it off every time, don't I?
Oh God, darling, you are being really annoying.
Only girls. Yes, you did. So, but where was this? I can't remember in the timeline. What we're looking at? Maddie was 3.5.
I've just realised I don't think we can talk about all these miscarriages in one podcast because I'm not asking you enough.
No. As we move along, and I'm not fettered by the fog of alcohol, because I do remember drinking on that first miscarriage, and I do remember drinking a lot around when we had Maddie because of my own issues with feeling not up to whether I was sufficient to be a good enough parent again and all this kind of stuff. So I had a lot of fear, I mean, we can talk about that maybe another time, but I had a lot of fear around the emotions that were being thrown up by Maddie, given that I had 2 other children, you know, from previous, and oh my God, could history repeat itself? You felt like you were going to keep giving birth to dead children. I felt like I was going to keep bringing into the world children that would have an absent father. And so that was a lot of the issues there. So all I'm saying is that as I look back on this period, it's kind of interesting to be reminded of the narrative, because I do remember very specifically a lot of the emotions around, I think, the last miscarriage that you had. So I think it's fine you talking about your experiences. I think that will resonate mostly for the women, who are the majority who listen.
But it's also interesting to hear about how it impacts on men.
Well, I'm saying I think that will kick in a lot more with the later ones. I mean,
because I think we often talk, don't we, about how we want more men to be listening to these podcasts. And thank you for the people that have said, oh, you listen to it and then you talk to your husband about it afterwards. But I think we talk a lot about miscarriage. I've talked about miscarriage on Loose Women, and you know, there's a lot, but we don't often talk about how it impacts on a man. But anyway, we can feel our way through.
But I think at this stage, I think it's interesting that I asked the question, what if we can't have kids? I think very much at this stage, I was of the opinion that we were, I mean, as you do when you're young, relative to how old we are now, just keep having babies. I mean, there's, you know, but I think when I was probably saying, what if you couldn't? It was like a really long distant thought. God, what if we find in like 10, 15 years we haven't been able to have one? I do think there's an element for men of, I mean, I'm not going to name who it was, but I remember a friend of mine who I used to work with, they'll know who they were, was deeply distressed when they lost their baby. I think men have a nesting instinct and a fathering instinct. You know, I mean, the first port of call is to the woman, because of course the woman's gone through it, and so you're sort of catering for that. And I think it's kind of right that takes priority. It's a physical thing. It's happening in your own body. Definitely. The hormones, everything. You know that
definitely got worse for you though through the last miscarriage was. But anyway, let's not jump ahead. So then I got pregnant, and then huge excitement. Oh my God, such massively huge excitement about that. And I was doing City Hospital at the time. I was filming City Hospital for BBC. And you were away filming. You were on location. You were in this country, but you were on location. You were, because you were doing something for the BBC. You were filming a series for the BBC.
Is this the one where I found out via...
Yeah.
No, I'll tell you what I was shooting. I was on location filming Taste of My Life with Vanessa Redgrave.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the show I had to do was really early morning. Do you remember I used to get picked up at like 4:30 in the morning?
And I remember you weren't feeling too good.
And I wasn't feeling good. And I'd called you and I told you a few days before that I think I'd had a spot of blood, but then I'd spoken to someone and they said, oh, that sometimes happens. So we were kind of okay about it. It's all right, it's not going to be a miscarriage, it stopped bleeding. I hadn't. And then I went into work and I started to bleed much more. And because I was in the hospital, I mean, we were doing a live show that day. Because I was in the hospital, they said, go up and have a scan.
That's right.
And I was sort of half made up, had my makeup for the show, went and had the scan. Sorry.
Sorry.
And they said that, that there was, she actually said there's nothing there, there's heartbeats, there's no heartbeat. It was a sac or something, I can't remember what the words were, something anyway that said it wasn't there. And I was so in shock. And I went and did the whole show with a miscarriage. It was a live show, do you remember?
Yeah, remarkable.
And because then I went back and then I did rehearsals, so I just sort of stumbled out of this scanner room knowing that I'd had a miscarriage. And I hadn't had a chance to speak to you. And then how you found out was awful.
Well, we were setting up for a shoot somewhere in London. And then I got a phone call from the most senior executive at the BBC to tell me that, oh, Mark, and they were very caring and very concerned.
Because they thought you knew.
They thought I knew, and they said, oh, Mark, I'm so sorry to hear the news. And we were just waiting for Vanessa Redgrave to arrive. And
you had a whole day filming with her.
And she said, I said, what? And then I could hear that she felt really kind of bad that she'd kind of mentioned. And she said, oh, you've not heard? I said, well, heard what? Oh, God. And then she said, Nadia's just found out she's miscarried. And of course I went into, well, where is she?
Because people might think that's really strange. How did she know? And the reason she knew was she was the boss of the BBC, and they were worrying that I wasn't going to be able to do the show, so they had to tell her that I might not be able to do the show. But I wasn't going to tell you because I knew you were filming all day with Vanessa Redgrave. And I didn't
you carried on and did a live show, and then at that point I looked around my crew and they were all like, what's happened? I went upstairs, was in tears. I think Liz, who worked for us, came up, or I can't remember who came up, and they said, what do you want? I said, well, we can't cancel her. We can't cancel her. We shot all these films in New York. Nigel Slater was there. We just had a massive... And I remember just having to literally put it on the back burner.
Yeah.
And then do an interview all about being a great mother.
It's interesting, though, because I think both of us had to freeze our feelings. And I think I stayed a bit frozen with that feeling. I remember being fearful, but just sort of pushing it down and not wanting to recognise it and giving myself all sorts of reasons. And
I don't even remember how we, I can't in any way picture when we met that day and what happened. I mean, it's a blur out. And it's like they often say with a lot of these traumatic experiences, though, there is a blocking. There's a sort of, you can not remember things from your childhood precisely because your system wants to kind of throw them out. And because I've had, if you like, if I'm just thinking of myself selfishly as a father, because I've had 4 daughters and I can think of four occasions where I've positively had children, why not eclipse the horror of each of those situations? I mean, and again, it's easier. I'm not saying anything. It's easier for a man.
For me, it was that awful thing of knowing the hormones rushing through your body, because all the pregnancies, apart from Maddie, I had terrible blinding headaches. Do you remember? You probably don't remember.
I do.
I used to have to tie a tea towel round my head and then get a wooden spoon, put it into the tea towel and turn it like a vice. To just get any relief from the pain, because I didn't want to take any painkillers, and those hormonal headaches were sheer hell. Eventually I used homeopathy for them and it really helped, but I had another pregnancy and that was quite an early miscarriage, and the reason I knew I had a miscarriage was I had this blinding headache again and then suddenly gone.
So what number is this?
3.
Oh right, okay, so I've got number 4 coming up on my schedule.
Yeah.
Number 4 was just...
Yeah. So these blinding headaches that would suddenly drop and then I would bleed and then da-da-da. So then, I don't know if you remember this, I then went to a gynecologist in Harley Street who did a full-on thing on me. And he said, at your age, because at that age I was 41, something like that, he said, you have a 99% chance of miscarrying with any pregnancy you have.
Yeah, it's remarkably high.
So we just gave up. We just said, we're not going to have another baby. So then I got pregnant again, and the headaches came. 6, 8, 9, 10, 11 weeks. Still haven't had a miscarriage. And
But it was almost like that, wasn't it?
yeah.
You were like sort of going, okay,
Yeah, because I wasn't.
it's coming.
I wasn't waiting to have
No,
a
no,
baby.
no.
I was waiting to have a miscarriage.
John.
Oh no, sorry, we've jumped ahead. We've jumped ahead to that's the Kiki story.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, sorry, jumped ahead. We're going to scroll you back. I'm not now pregnant with Kiki. I am pregnant again.
So we've had the incident where the BBC were involved on both
Yeah.
sides.
Yeah. And then I'm pregnant again. And it's gone quite far. We were like we were at 12 weeks, I think. Yeah. And
13, I think. I think it had gone further.
well, something like that. And my headache dropped. Bang, headache gone. I thought, oh my God, here we go again. Miscarried again. And I remember my sister I was in such a total panic. And my sister took me to the hospital. And though I was panicked, it was really strange. I didn't think for a minute that I had miscarried. I think because it had gone on so much longer, and I felt a presence of something or someone, which I'm now convinced is Kiki. It was Kiki. Trying to come through, anyway. So, yeah, that was an awful one, that. Lying on the bed, I was with my sister, and when they said, no, there's no heartbeat, and my sister was like, because I was looking into my sister's face, I was holding my sister's hand, and I looked into my sister's face, and I just saw the horror in her face. And then they said I could stay in at the hospital, and I could have whatever it is they do, D&C or something, and I didn't want to do that. So I think they gave me some sort of a tablet, I think. I can't remember. Yeah. Anyway, I came home. Do you remember all the family were here? We told everyone to go, didn't we? And then I went through labour. I can only describe it as labour. It was horrendous.
It's the most horrendous.
It was horrendous. Because I had contractions, I was screaming around this house. Do you remember? The pain just was not stopping. It was just horrific. And it went on for hours. And all the family were next door. I remember that, because we were going to be having a roast dinner or something. Typical me, remember the food. Anyway, and then do you remember, you were on the floor and you were crying. We were upstairs.
In the hall upstairs.
Yeah. You were like, no, you weren't crying at that point. And then I delivered something. And I remember feeling, and people might find this is really odd, this enormous relief, because the pain had stopped. I knew this baby was dead, so the pain had stopped. And that's what I was so relieved for, the pain had stopped. So I was almost like, oh, thank God. And I was in a very weird mental state. And then I turned around and you were absolutely sobbing.
But you handed it to me.
Yeah.
And when you handed it to me, it was like just, but I do remember absolutely losing it. It was so distressing, because I could see the baby. I could see it.
Well, the very...
No, but I mean, it's burnt onto my retina. The shape. I know. I remember you being in such floods of pain, and there was a lot of blood, and I just thought, oh my God,
Such a terrible feeling of loss, isn't it?
It felt like such a wrench, an enormous wrench of its future, your shared future, Maddie's future. Everything felt so like it was made of cut crystal glass. Like it's like in any minute it's going to be dropped.
Our whole family.
And it had been dropped, but then it made everything else seem so fragile.
Yeah. Our whole family, our whole world is now glass, thin glass.
Yeah. And I mean, I wasn't drinking at that time, and I remember thinking...
Oh no, you'd given up drinking ages.
But I remember at that point it being one of the first really, really massive moments of, oh Christ, I want to escape these feelings, because this is just too... And, you know, tied up in all of that was knowing your loss, and because of course What you don't realise is that at that stage, all of your hormones, your body was still kind of catering for something that was going to happen.
But also to see somebody you love in such screaming
absolutely.
physical pain, apart from
Just
the
like-
emotional pain.
And of course, it's that sort of strangely sort of primal desire that you had to be left on your own. So I remember there being a moment where I was outside the bathroom, you didn't want me anywhere near you, and you were on the loo, and you were in the loo when we had that little partition upstairs in the bathroom, and you were like insistent that I stay away, and it was just, I felt so disconnected from what was going on. Yeah.
What did I say not to come in?
You just wanted me out. You wanted me out of the room. You wanted privacy. And it was like, I'm not saying this using the word in a sort of derogatory fashion, but it was like a beast of nature. You were in a corner.
Primal.
And you were dealing with it. And you needed to take it out. And you needed to get it out. And you needed to sort of hold it. And then you needed, and you literally, it was like you handed it to me. Oh, babe. It was very sad.
It's okay. I just, as I sit here and I feel sad remembering these things, my heart goes out to people that don't have a baby, you know. Some people go through this over and over again and don't have a baby, and we've got 2 daughters, and I just can't imagine, because I do say that the girls have healed it for me. They've healed it. I like to think that it was just Kiki trying to get through. That's what whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. It's just my way of dealing with it. But yeah, primal was the right word. Right back down to the earth of just. And you want to do everything to stop it, but you know you can't, and so you've just got to get it out. And you almost, just because you're thinking, and this might sound awful, you just want to try again. That's how you feel. I need to try again because I must have this baby. I need another baby. And I feel guilty even saying that because I already had Maddie, but a primal maternal instinct is what it is, and it's not politically correct. No. It doesn't know what's the right way to behave. It's just there. And
I think that's really important. I think there's a lot of judgments made around certain physical, maternal, I would also argue paternal instincts that are often, society tries to pressurize us into sanitizing those emotions and being really rational and kind of reasonable about them all in that sort of middle class way. Sometimes you can't be.
No.
Sometimes it's about, it's an animal instinct to want to have, to nurture, to be, to hold, to look after. And I remember after that very much, there was a sort of deep process of, you kept.
Well, then we had the awful, oh God, when I think about this, and I spoke about this on Loose Women, and I was just overwhelmed with how many people got in touch with me, but because I didn't know what to do with the baby, with the fetus, with the thing. We didn't know what to call it, what it was. I put it in a packed lunchbox and put it in the freezer.
Yeah, I remember.
And because what was I supposed to do? Flush it down the toilet? Bury it? That seemed almost dramatic, almost. So I put it in the freezer, and I have never asked you what you thought of that.
It was a little bit disturbing because it was alongside a frozen guinea pig in the actual freezer. So there was this strange moment where you had this fridge, and within it there was something of such magnitude and significance and importance to us. And yet we were preserving a dead animal for for our kids to bury. So it was it was strange, and yet it seemed strangely peaceful, keeping it close to us. There was some kind of comfort that I felt in keeping it in the family.
Did you tell your mum and stuff? Did they know I'd put it in the freezer?
No.
I think I told my family.
But I think your sister knew, and of course we then I thought I remember it being a very cathartic process of
months and months, maybe later. 6 months later.
But I do think that, there's something similar going on at the moment with my nan's.
6 months later what? Because we haven't said what. I'd be wondering, Paul, what?
Well, 6 months later we did have a ceremony of burying it.
Yeah. And my sister organised it all. She did it so beautifully.
Yeah,
she did a beautiful box, didn't
which
she? And
Maddie and Izzy decorated.
Yeah, and then she got a lovely tree.
Cherry tree.
A cherry tree. and planted it under the cherry tree, and then we all wrote messages and hung it on the tree.
Yeah. I thought it was beautiful.
It was beautiful, and my sister was very kind to do all that.
And it was a very cathartic process. And I vividly remember Maddie with her funny little, how she'd just be sort of up for whatever was going on. And I remember her holding and kind of not really gathering and looking around and thinking, this is serious because people are sad.
She didn't really know.
And at the same time, she was like playing with Tonka, the dog at the time. And she was just like, and they carried it out and they placed it. And it was a very positive. Very often I think about that tree. Very often I think about trying, going on that little walk near to the cottage and finding it. I really do.
I don't.
Do you not?
No. Because I feel sort of numb. I think I went to a numb place with that loss, and I kept myself numb, and I'm still numb.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I'm really honest, and I've never said this to you before, throughout that whole burial and everything, and I've always said, oh, it was so lovely and it was so meaningful and it was so cathartic, I wasn't feeling anything.
All right.
But that's not from a place that I wasn't feeling anything. That's from a very deep, grief place where I just buried the feelings very, very. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but after we had that miscarriage, I came down and cooked a full roast dinner for everybody. And you were like, Natty, can't you just slow down? And I was like almost manic. I was cooking, I cooked this big meal.
Entertaining, let alone cooking.
And I invited everyone round, and I just had a major miscarriage.
I personally really resented you for that, because I was like, God, we're trying to deal with something so private, and now your entire family are in it.
But I think it was because I didn't want to deal with it. I think it was because it was too horrific to me.
I get that. I understand why the ceremony, in a sense, would have been, it was neat stage management for those of us it hadn't happened to. I mean, it's like I always find when people talk about abortion and pregnancy and everything, it happens to the woman, it happens to the woman's body. However much men are involved, it's fundamentally a female decision. So that experience was your experience. So you not connecting with that ceremony, I totally get. It really worked for me. It really helped me. I think it really helped Izzy.
Yeah.
And I think Maddie was too young to know, but I think she knows the story of it, and we have some photographs of the tree, and she sort of says, oh, do you remember?
And she always talks to Kiki about it.
Well, because we definitely felt that it was Kiki. Kiki was knocking on the door. She knocked 3 times, and the 3rd time she arrived.
Well, and then to the last pregnancy, when I had been told that I had a 99% chance of having a miscarriage, which I mentioned earlier.
I remember looking at the statistics on the paper going, this ain't looking good.
It's not going to happen. So then when we got pregnant, I was just waiting to have a miscarriage. I wasn't waiting to have a baby, and almost numbed, sort of with this little bit of hope. Well, actually more than a little bit of hope. I really hoped I was going to have it. But I was expecting in the back of my mind that I was going to have a miscarriage. Had the very, very strong headaches again, terrible headaches. And then suddenly my headache stopped, bang, stopped. And we were near Christmas. And I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't tell you, I didn't tell anyone, but I was 100% convinced I'd had a miscarriage. And I was just waiting to bleed or waiting to... The worst thing was I kept drinking Baileys because I thought I'd had a miscarriage.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
She's really obsessed with Baileys as well.
Yeah, so then we went after Christmas, and we went back to the same guy, and they did a scan. Do you remember? And I said, I've had a miscarriage, but I haven't had it yet. And put the scan up. Oh my God. And he went, what do you mean you've had a miscarriage? There's a baby here, really strong heartbeat. And I went, no.
Vividly.
I said, no, there isn't. No, I've had a miscarriage. He said, he said, not only have you not had a miscarriage, this is a really good for size baby. You're not going to have a miscarriage. And it's a really strong heartbeat. And I went, no, can you just check again? Can you check your machine? Because I've had a miscarriage. I was so convinced. Do you remember when we walked down those steps into Harley Street? It was a sunny day.
Much.
And I said, oh, what do you think all that meant? And you went that you're going to have a baby.
baby.
I'm not. I've had a miscarriage.
I said, babe, you haven't.
I could not believe it. I could not believe it. I just couldn't. I was 41.
Well, how old's Kiki now? She's 10.
10.
Yeah.
I'm 53. So how old was I? 42.
Yeah.
I was 42. Being told I couldn't have a baby, being told a 99% chance of having a miscarriage, went back to that same damn doctor, and the heartbeat was so good.
Remarkable.
And then do you remember? And then when we had Kiki, we didn't have a midwife here, did we? Until like the last hour. We just did it together, the two of us, and with our friend Rachel, and our blessed friend Rachel. And she came, and I'll never forget. We've got the photo. We should put the photo up. You know that photo when you went, she's here, and your face. Yeah. Because even then, we didn't believe she was there. For the first week, I still was going, but I've had a miscarriage. I've had a miscarriage. In my head, I was still saying, I've had a miscarriage.
I've always said to, I was saying it to Kiki the other day, that the word miscarriage, really they meant missed carriage. You missed your carriage twice, and you arrived a third time. She went like that. What does it mean?
Do you know what, Omar? I'm really mindful as we're saying this. There'll be people listening to this that won't have had a baby at the end.
No.
I almost feel guilty about that.
But you can't have survivor's guilt for yourself.
No,
you know,
but I just thinking
it's not to say that we are blessed to have the 2 girls that we have. And obviously the 4 girls that I've got. Blessed. You need a hug, and you won't let me hug you on camera, so I think we should stop. Can I give you a hug?